Hello.
Hola,
Hello.
Bava Kama DAf, ¿cómo estás?
Cansado.
Sí,
Me pasé durmiendo y estoy cansado.
yo dormí como un...
Dormí
dormí
de las
bien.
2, de las 2
¿Eh?
hasta, yo dormí de las 2:30 hasta ahora.
Sí,
Pero
como las 3. ¿Ah?
ayer, ayer dormí de las 6:30 y yo dormí hasta las 7:30 de la mañana.
Oh my God.
Ya, me levanté una vez para por 2 minutos o 1 minuto y
Wow, wow. That's a long time.
ya.
No, yo me acosté a las 3:30, me parece, y me levanté, él me despertó a las 5:15 y estaba out, totally out.
Oh,
Y ahora estoy empezando a toser. Me parece que recibí algo ya.
yo estoy tosiendo hace días.
Yeah, yo empecé ahora y a veces tengo ataques de tos que son terribles. Voy a tener que empezar a tomar algo ahora para ver si lo puedo parar.
Tenés que, tenés que medirte a ver si no tenés COVID, Johnny. Yo me hice
No, no,
dos. Yo me
no,
hice
no creo.
dos.
¿Ya? No, no tengo COVID, no creo. ¿Tomaste la última vacuna o no?
Sí,
Yo todavía no.
pero me di la Pfizer, no había la Moderna cuando me fui a dar.
No importa. ¿Dónde estamos? ¿50?
Sí. Yo no sé por qué no hace el novio, ¿y hay una razón?
¿Qué?
¿Por qué
¿No
no
hay
hay
novio hoy?
no? No, eso es lo que
Oh.
dijo él el otro día. Yo puse
Él
un
está,
aviso.
o sea, está en lo de Harold en Rancho Mirage, ¿sabes?
Ah, ok.
Está él, eh, Walter, Bernie
Wow.
y el hermano, Richie. Están ahí desde el viernes.
Ah, ok.
No
¿Cuándo es
sé,
el casamiento que vas?
el miércoles.
Mm.
Pero vamos el martes ya al hotel.
¿De quién es el casamiento? Bueno, ¿una nieta de Doris?
No,
No.
el hijo de Doris, el hijo menor de Doris.
Oh. ¿Ella es la que no se habla con los hijos? No.
No, 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 no,
¿Quién,
no.
quién es la que no se habla con los hijos?
No es que ella no se habla, los hijos no se hablan con ellos.
Ya.
Es
Oh.
Silvia, Silvia.
Ah, Silvia.
Pero ahora ya se hablan con la mayoría de los chicos. Hay
Ah,
una
ok.
sola, hay una sola que no habla. Yeah.
Mm.
Pero están en contacto con los hijos y me parece la otra hija también, no estoy seguro.
Esta Doris, que es hermana de Alberto,
Hermana de Alberto y hermana de Susana.
y vienen todos ellos para el casamiento.
Y ya. Ujú.
That's nice.
Y va a estar lleno de familia.
Sí,
Va a ser un casamiento probablemente de 800 personas, andas a ver.
wow.
Ya. ¿Dónde está Ernie? Apareció y no pasó nada.
Yeah, Ernie's coming. Don't worry, guys. It's coming. It's
Okay.
coming.
Walter, you're not in Palm
Yeah.
Springs? In Rancho?
I am.
Recording in progress.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, switch off. I switch off.
You took your library with you.
What was
You
that?
took the library with you, yeah.
Daddy with me. Don't worry.
Hello, Rancho Mirage.
So, hola, Johnny.
What?
Okay, we're on Nun Amid Aleph. Tomorrow night we'll learn at 7:30,
What? Tomorrow 7:30?
7:30 p.m.
Okay.
We don't have Novi today, right?
No Navi today.
Okay. Because
Right.
it was asked, people don't read the messages.
Next week.
Okay.
Grandchildren. Shit.
Rabbi Kiva Sover Bor B'Shus of Nami Chai. Nun, Bava Kama on the top. There's a machlokas for Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Shmuel. If a person digs a bore in his own rishus, and he was mafkir his rishus to the rabbin, so that the rabbin can walk through his rishus now. But he didn't mafkir the bore. The bore still is owned by him. If you remember, Rabbi Kiva held this was the bore, the definitive index case of bore that the Torah is talking about. Not that a person went to the Rishus HaRabim and dug a bore there. No. It's he dug a bore in his backyard. He was mafkir his backyard to the Rabbim that the Rabbim could use it, but he kept Rishus of the bore. Rabbi Kiva Savar, bore Rishus Namichai. There's a chiyuv for that too. Not just on a bore that was dug in Rishus HaRabim didn't cover it. Chsiv, Bala bor yishalem. So the bore de islay bailim kamrach. The Torah is referring to a bore that has an owner. Even though the bore is not a Rishus HaRabim, which we've always understood is the case of bore. Rabbi Kiva says no. But Rabbi Shmuel Savar, what does it mean by Bala bor? Baal hatakola, the owner of the obstacle that the guy created. So bore isn't just that you dug a bore. If you left a pile of bricks in the Rishus HaRabim and people trip over it, that has the same classification of bore. So when he dug the bore in Rishus HaRabim, it was a takola. We're not talking about somebody who dug a bore in his backyard. Ella, the way Rabbah explains this machlokas, what does then it mean? Zeu bor ha'omer b'toyr, the Kam Rabbi Kiva. Right? The Mishnah says this is the bore that the Torah is talking about. I mean, Rabbi Kiva also agrees that if he digs a bore b'Rishus HaRabim, he's also going to be chayiv. So what has been mamaid? What has been excluded by Rabbi Kiva? Meaning, zeu bor shepotach ba'akos tchila lo tashlum. This is the first case of payment for a bore that the Torah talks about. And there's going to be payment even if he digs a bore in Rishus HaRabim as well. But this is the first case. It's not just a bore that he dug in Rishus HaRabim, but even bore in his backyard. That's the way Rabbah explains the machlokas between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Kiva. Rav Yosef Amar, he has a different explanation of the machlokas between Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Shmuel. The bor b'Rishus HaYachid kulam aloi pliga shechai. Both Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Shmuel will hold that if a person dug a bore in his backyard and he was mafkir his reshus to the rabbi, but he kept ownership of the bore. So there's no machlokes. Both say you're chayiv on that. My timer, bala bor amrachmon. The bore the isle bailim askinan. And this is an example of a bore that has bailim. So where then is the machlokes? Bebor b'reshus harabim. If a person dug a bore in the public thoroughfare, Rabbi Shmuel said a bore b'reshus harabim nami chayiv. That you're chayiv for a bore in your own reshus, and you're also chayiv if you dug a bore b'reshus harabim. Dichsiv ki yiftach ish bor, v'chi yichre ish bor. The Torah uses a double language. Yiftach means there was a bore that was dug, which had a cover on it, and he removed the cover. So now the bore is open to people falling into it. Yes, but I'm explaining the definition of yiftach and kriya. Yiftach means the bore has been dug, not by him. There was a cover over it, and he removed the cover. That's ki yiftach. Ki yichra means he dug a bore. And he created the bore. Why does the Torah need that? There's a kavachomer here. If you didn't dig the bore, but the bore had a cover over it, and all you did is remove the cover, and somebody falls in and damages themselves, we say you're chayiv to pay, then alachas kama v'kama, you'd have to pay if you dug the bore lechatchila. So what is the Torah teaching us by saying ki yiftach ki yichre? Ella shall iske psicha val iske kriya ba. No. Even when the bore is not his, meaning when you dig a bore in Reshus Harabim, like Bala Bor, he's not the Bala Bor. The Reshus Harabim is known by anybody, but he is responsible because ki yiftach and ki yichra doesn't make a difference where he did it, even Reshus Harabim. So Rabbi Shmuel holds that you'd be chayiv for digging a bore in Reshus Harabim. Rabbi Kiva holds no. You're only chayiv for bore if you dug a bore in your own reshus, and then you were mafkir it to the Rabbim, then you're chayiv. And we don't learn from these extra psukim, ki yiftach, ki yichra, like Rabbi Shmuel, that it comes to include responsibility for a bore that was dug in Reshus Harabim. So according to Rabbi Kiva, digging a bore in Reshus Harabim does not create a chiyuv for you, only according to Rabbi Shmuel. Why doesn't Rabbi Kiva learn from these extra psukim? Because tzrichi. Because each pasuk needs to teach me something. If the Torah would have only written the words ki yiftach, which implies opening up a previously dug bore, I would have thought, mi shepoisechu d'sagila. Somebody who opens up the covering of a bore that had previously been done, there's a way to solve it. You cover it, bikisui. And if you cover it, you're no longer responsible. Because it says v'lo yichasenu. Aval kura lo sogile besigui ad timele. Perhaps if I dig a bore, I am not relieved of my responsibility until I actually fill the bore up with dirt. It's not enough to just cover it. Perhaps I'm still responsible. It's not enough of a repair of the damage unless I fill it up. And the other way, if the Torah would have only taught me, oh, you know what? I'm chayiv if I dig a bore. Hava mina kriyahu the boy kisu. You know, when you dig a bore, it requires to be covered. Mishum de ovad maisa. The person actually did a maisa and dug a bore. But a bore that had previously been dug and had a covering on, and I walk around and I just uncover it, right? Aval poseach, shaloi ovad maisa. Now, he did a little maisa, but he didn't do a real maisa. Ema shekisui nami lo bor. Maybe there's a havamina that if I uncover it, I don't have to cover it. So that's why Rabbi Kiva says the Torah had to write both. And it's not to teach me that there's a chiyuv for digging a bor in rishus. No, there's only a chiyuv for bor if I dig it in my own rishus. Okay, so that's the way Rav Yosef explains the machlokas between Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Shmuel. Baruch atah Moshe Kol Nivra.
Let me ask you, the guy who's living in his own shoes. He's got a fence around the back of his.
No. He takes down the fence because he gave the Rishus Harabim Rishus to come through it. Yeah.
Oh.
He's mafkir it to the Rabim
so then
that they can use it.
it's
So in essence, it becomes a Rishus,
Yeah.
but it started up. So Rabbi Kiva would hold, if you go into a Rishus Harabim that exists right now and dig a bor, you're not chayiv. You're chayiv if you turn your own Rishus into a Rishus Harabim.
What's the chiluk?
Oh, well, the Gemara is going to ask exactly your question. What's a nafkamina?
Cheater.
Well, one nafkamina is how we darshan these psukim. Okay. Let's see what the Gemara says. Come on, Shmuel. Ella, according to this explanation of Rav Yosef, my zeh bor ama b'Torah, when the Mishnah said, "Oh, this is the bor that the Torah refers to come Rabbi Shmuel." And remember, Rabbi Shmuel, the way Rav Yosef learns, says it's bor in both cases. Both if I do it in Rishus HaYachid, both if I do it in Rishus HaRabim. So what is being excluded by Zeu bor ama b'Torah on Rabbi Shmuel? So Zeu bor shepasach b'hakos of tchilul nizikin. Eina chanami. There's really no difference. This is the first one that the Torah is talking about. Meisv. I'll ask you a question. A choifer bor b'Rishus HaRabim. Person went into the Rishus HaRabim and dug a bor. Upascha Rishus HaYachid. He did into private domain. Potter.
I don't understand. He's doing it.
He dug it in the Rishus
in
HaRabim,
this, okay.
but the opening of the bore is in a private domain.
The tunnels.
He dug a
Oh,
tunnel,
good. Okay.
and then the way to get into the tunnel of the bore that we understand here was for water. It was a cistern. So they dug an underground sort of cavern.
Yeah.
So a regular bore is a well, a circle.
Sure.
You just dig, you fill it with water. Okay. But you could also sort of dig like water's like a tunnel. And the way to have access to the water is through a Rishus HaYachid.
Yeah.
They learned this more.
Bava Kama.
Meisve. HaChoifer bor b'Rishus HaRabim posach Rishus HaYachid potter. Aval b'shein Rishoi lasos came, but you're not permitted to do this. Listen to this, talking about Hamas.
Oh, big guys.
Lefi she'ein oisin chalal tachas Rishus HaRabim.
Exactly.
You cannot create empty space on the Rishus HaRabim. It's dangerous. There'll be a
Yes.
collapse. It's its own danger. However, HaChoifer boris sichin u'ma'aros Rishus HaYachid. A bore is a water cistern. Sichin a bore typically was circular. Sichin, the Rishonim say, are square. Ma'aros is like a cave, but it's a digging that has a roof to it. Okay? So if you do that Rishus HaYachid, and somehow the access to these constructs was in the Rishus HaRabim, chayiv. If damaged, there would be a chiyuv for nizik. V'achoifer boris b'Rishus HaYachid, hasmucha l'Rishus HaRabim. Somebody dug a bore in private domain, but it's very close to the public domain, but not in Rishus HaRabim. Kigon elu achoifrin le'ushin. Ushin say the Rishonim are foundations for buildings. So, like what Walter was saying yesterday, that he had a wall drawn into his property. So basically, you dug, before they lay foundations, they dig a pit. I remember when Manila dug, they had these deep things, and then they fill it up with cement.
Right.
Okay, so this was something like that built on private property, but close to Rishus HaRabim. Potter. If someone got damaged by such a thing, you're potter. But Rav Yosef Mechayev, that he says for these kind of bores that you dug, even for these foundational ones, Ad sheyasa mechitza shel asor. If you build a wall that separates that ditch that you built for your foundation, if you build a wall 10 tfachim between the Rishus HaRabim and it, that's the way you protect yourself from liability. Oh, ad sheyachik mimokom drisas regli odem mokom drisas regli behema arba tfachim. You have to, if you want to dig this thing on your property, but you front the Rishus HaRabim, you have to stay 4 tfachim away from the Rishus HaRabim. And then you have no liability if someone got damaged by it. Now, time leushin. The p'tur is if this was done for foundation. Halav, if it's not done for foundation, leushin chayiv. Let's say it was done for water, the typical reasons for a bore. Even though you did it in your own rishus. Hamani. This price we just quoted, who is it? Bishma Rabbah. The way Rabbah explained the machlokas between Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Shmuel. Reisha, that where there was a p'tur, if you opened up the Pesach into your rishus, so even if he had done it and was mafkir it, it's Rabbi Shmuel. This say for Rabbi Kiva, who says that a board that you did that way, you'd be chayv. El Rav Yosef. So Bishma say for Divrei Kol, El Reisha, where there was a p'tur on board b'rishus money, lo Rabbi Shmuel, lo Rabbi Kiva. So according to Rav Yosef, that's how we started off. Kula amalo pligi, that you're going to be chayiv for a board that you dug in your own rishus, even though you were mafkir it. So how does Rav Yosef answer? Amlach Rav Yosef. Kula divrei kol. We can still say it's no machlokas, and it's both Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Shmuel. Bereisha, where we talked about a bore that extended underneath into the Rishus HaRabim, but the Pesach is in his, the opening of it is in this Rishus HaYachid. That's a case shlo hifkir lo Rishus v'lo boiro. He was not mafkir, not his Rishus and not the bore to the Rishus HaRabim. So then it's not a din of bore by Nezikin, and that's why you're potter. On Rav Ashi, hashta du ikimta, the Rav Yosef divrei kol. So Rabba nami lo tok mekitanoi. So the way we explained Rabba also could be explained not a machlokes tanoi. Midereshek Rabbi Shmuel, who he said it's potter if you were mafkir your rishus and didn't mafkir the bor. Say for Rabbi Shmuel, and the taima, that which we said if you dug it in Rishus HaYachid, that's close to Rishus HaRabim, where we said there was a p'tur if you did it leushin for foundations, and therefore we were medayik halav leushin chayiv. Kigon, the Arvech Arvuchi, he enlarged a bore to the Rishus HaRabim and to include the Rishus HaRabim. Now he actually dug a bore Rishus HaRabim. That's why there's a chiv. Meisvei, a choifer bore Rishus HaYachid. Person dug a bore in his private property. Upischol Rishus HaRabim. The opening of it was in the Rishus HaRabim. We say chai. But we said if you dug a bore Rishus HaYachid, asmuch Rishus HaRabim, but there is no opening in Rishus HaRabim, potter. Bishma Rabbah Kula Rabbi Shmuel, because Rabbi Shmuel always pottered if you dug a bore Rishus in his own Rishus. El Rav Yosef. So Bishma Reisha, where there's a p'tur, it's Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel says if you dug a bore in Rishus HaRabim, you'd be chayiv. El Sefer Mani, lo Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Kiva. Omar b'choifer leushin k'divrei kol. Again, it's talking about not the regular case of bore that goes in Rishus HaRabim, but these foundations which were made on his property. Ton Rabban. Misha Chofa, v'chein Pasach. Person dug a bore or opened a bore. Umasr l'Rabbim, and gave it to the Rabbim to use. It means he didn't retain ownership of the bore. And why did people do it? They were doing a chesed. They wanted to provide water for the Ole Regalim. So I dug a bore, filled it with water, and I gave it to the Rishus HaRabim. I don't own it. And therefore, that's not a bore that a person's chayiv for. If I dig a bore and retain ownership of the bore and the water inside of it, that's bore Rishus HaRabim, according to Rabbi Shmuel. Chafar upasach v'lo masar l'Rabim. You dug the bore and you didn't give it over to the public, then you're chayiv. V'chein minhago shel Nechunya chofer boris shichem aros. There was a Tana. He was called Nechunya, digger of wells. Shai chofer posech u'moisel rabim. He went around all over, digging water cisterns and giving it over to the rabbim, so people would have access to water. Ukesheshamu chacham b'dover amru kayim ze halacha zeh. He was mekayim this halacha that we said of chafar bor u'moisel rabim pot. Afraid the Gemara. Nechunya was a great tzaddik. This is the only thing he's halacha zu, and that's it. Elaima af halacha zu. He didn't forget to give the board to the rabbim. Okay, now that we mention Nechunya, Torah Bonan. The daughter of Nechunya fell into a bore. Now, you guys didn't live in Los Angeles.
Oh, I remember this famous story.
Famous story in 1961.
Yeah, Channel
What was
5.
that guy on? What was that guy?
Yeah, no,
The newscaster.
yeah, I know.
No, he lived forever.
Yeah, I know who you mean.
It
Wasn't George Putnam?
No.
No, I
No,
remember.
it was an older. He was on. They were on
Yes.
air for like 72 hours.
Yeah.
Somebody fell into a girl fell
Into a pit.
into a pit,
I've seen that
And-
once also.
and they saved her. They saved her. So you saw that in Cleveland?
No, I remember coming here. Every year they would do it. They would talk about it.
Yeah.
Someone couldn't get in.
Stan, wasn't his name Stan?
Yeah, yeah, Stan. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right.
Stand the man.
No, you're right. It's
No, it was the first time well, it was before Kennedy's assassination, where the station
Oh, yeah.
stayed on for like,
Stan. I know it was definitely Stan.
okay. Let's
Stop
see.
everything.
No, let's see. I know what he looks like.
Was baby Jessica? No.
Well, maybe it happened again later on. Okay. But this is early television. The daughter fell into this pit. And she disappeared. And they couldn't get her out of there. Bau Vodias Rav Chanina ben Doisa. Rav Chanina ben Doisa at that time was the miracle worker. People would go to Rav Chanina ben Doisa to ask him to daven for things. Shari Shona,
Stan Chambers.
Stan Chambers.
Yeah.
Is there a
Kathy
picture?
Fiscus.
You have a picture?
Yeah.
I remember him. Yeah, and they have the picture, right? They have the,
Where was this ball?
no, it was somewhere in Los Angeles. Somewhere in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Like the DWP dug something or
Yeah,
something
Orange
like
County.
that.
Yes.
So, Shari Shoina Amar Lem Sholem. The first hour of Chanina said, she's okay. Shoshni Amar Lehem Sholem. The second hour, he said also, she's okay. Shlishis Amar Lehem also. She's out of there. She's okay. Amar La. So when she came out, they asked her, Mi Helcha. Who brought you out? Amar Lehem Zachar Shel Rechelim Nizdamen. It was a ram. It was the ram that Avram Avinu was found, but I guess they shechted that ram. So I don't know what kind of ram they're talking about. It was a ram, the Zaken Echad, which refers to Avram Avinu. Manigo. So she had a
It
vision,
was riding. Ego means what?
no, leading her out.
And ego means that doesn't mean
Yeah. Leading her out. That's who saved her. Elo Shel Yitzchak. Actually, Rashi does say the Isle of Yitzchak, but the Isle of Yitzchak was slaughtered. I don't know. Whatever. Amr Lo. Naviata? So they asked Rav Chanina, what are you, a Navi? How did you know this was going to happen? Amr Lem Lo Navi Anochi v'lo ben Navi Anochi. I'm not a Navi, and I'm not the son of a Navi. Elakach Amarti. This is what I said to myself. Dover she'oised tzaddik mitztayer bo. This tzaddik spends his whole life digging wells for the Jewish people to have water. He kashel bozaro. So one of his ancestors should fall into a pit because of that? Can't be. So she's going to be saved. Listen to this. Amravacha. Aval pichein Meis beno b'tzamo. Lechunia's son died of thirst. Shenamar usvivav nishara me'od. Melamed shekadosh baruch hu medagdik im svivav afilu kachut asara. Very famous Gemara. That people who are close to Kadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem is medagdik them very carefully. Like the story that comes to mind that the Midrashim cite is Yaakov Avinu put Dinah in a box when they were traveling the river because he didn't want Esav to see her.
Yeah.
And he got punished because Dinah eventually got raped.
We just had this.
And he should have allowed it because maybe Esav could have become a Baal Tshuva. So Hashem judges kachut hasara. Something that for us wouldn't even consider a chet. They would consider it a mitzvah. Look at what people, with sneas today,
Right.
let the separate dancing. Today they would be praised. For that, Yaakov was held accountable.
Right, also you see by Yaakov also when basically when Yosef asked, get me out of the prison to the butler, he got
Yeah.
for 2 more
Yeah,
years.
kachut hasara.
And somebody else would say, okay, I did something good for you.
It's natural. We would consider that normal.
Yeah.
Do me a favor,
Normal.
let me have it, yeah.
Exactly. Same. But the Rashi there by Yaakov says kachut hasara brings this itself. Rav Nechunya Omar Mehacha Kel Narot Besod Kedoshim Rabba the Noira Akol Sviva. That means the Kedoshim, those that are it's Noirois. Yeah, how careful you have to be. Amrav Chanina. Koloimer Kadosh Baruch Hu Vatranu. Whoever thinks that HaKadosh Baruch Hu just forgives easy things, it just slides off, is Yoisru Chayev. He's taking his life in his hands. Shenemar Atzur Tamim Palok Yichodrach of Mishpat. That means there's a chok of Mishpat, and Hashem is not Mevater. Amrav Chanav Yitem Rashmuel Bar Nachmeni. He is. He has the Yugim Midas. So there are times.
Saying so, but this says that you see that he doesn't. And we always say that he does.
During the Aseres Yemei Tshuva, maybe. When we recite the Yugim Midas, it may be situational. Here's another answer to Walter's question. My deceive Erech Apayim. Right? Hashem holds back his anger. Why does it say Erech Af? Af is a nose.
Right.
But when people are angry, like in the
Snorting.
Bugs Bunny,
They snorting.
the bull would always through his nose, he would be angry. So it's through the nose. So the question is, why does it say Apayim? It should say Af. So l'tzadikim u'l'rishonim, that Erech Apayim, he'll hold back from punishing both tzadikim and rishonim. But so sometimes he won't
That's
punish.
very
He won't punish a tzaddik.
That.
He'll hold back. Milashalim schar tov la'alter. He'll hold back. He won't give them a reward right away. Rishonim, he gives them a clap right away. That's how Rashi says.
For the wicked, and does not punish the wicked for the transgression.
And because the Rishonim, they give them a reward in this world because he wants them to suffer forever in the next world. So that's why you say, one of the reasons why they say Rishonim v'toivlo. How can you see Rishonim, they have it good in this world? Because he gives them all their benefit in this world because he's going to miss out everything in the next world. Torah. And the tzaddik is given punishment in this world because he's going to have nitzchias in the next world. Torah. Lo yisakel adam rishusol shesarabim. A person shouldn't stay in his backyard and throw stones into the Rishus Harabim. Ma'aseh b'adam echad, shai misakel mishusol Rishus Harabim, u'matza chasid echad. A certain chasid found him. Amar lo, Reika, you fool. Nei mata misakel mishus she'ena shelcha l'shus shelcha. Why are you throwing lachura? He was throwing it from his courtyard, but the guy told him, "You're throwing it not yours to your rishus." So legally, the guy who was throwing made fun of him because didn't know what he was talking about. But Yomi nitzrach limkor sadeyu, he had to sell his house. Buy malach bos rishus harabim. He was homeless and living in rishus harabim, and he tripped over these own stones. The nichshal bois navan Amar Yafa meaning the Rishus Rabbim became his Rishus. Mishnah. Bava Kama is very nice Gemara. It's not just the halacha part, but even the Agadah in Bava Kama is nice. Huh?
Teaching you how to be ethical in
Everyday life.
whatever you do. That you maybe it's not the halacha is with you, that it's true that it's mutter, but it's really not a good thing to do.
Like we saw before, bidei Shammai, bidei Adam, you're not chayiv, but bidei Shammai, you're chayiv.
You don't know. So it teaches you a lot. It's a very ethical Gemara.
Hachoifer bor b'shus harabim. Person dug a bor in b'shus harabim. The nafal l'socho shor chamor. Shor chamor fell in, chayiv. You have to pay. And if it gets killed, you pay koifer. Echad hachoifer bo siach ma'ara, whether it's a bor, whether it's narrow, that's a siach. A ma'ara, it's square and has a ceiling. Chritzim v'ne'itzim, which are like trenches, like when the DWP are digging trenches in our streets, that's a trench. Chayiv makes no difference. You're chayiv. Im kein lama nemar bor. So why does the Torah say bor? So we learn ma bor sheyesh bo kedei lahamis. The depth of the bor has to be a depth that is a killing bor. Asor tefachim.
Meaning
It's got to be 10 tefachim deep.
oh, okay.
If it's not, you're not chayiv. So any bor that's not, I think a tefach is 4 inches.
40 inches, that's not,
It's not very deep.
no, the yard, a little bit of yard.
Avkol sheyesh bo gedei lahamis. So any of these other structures that we mentioned, your chayiv, they have to be at least 10 tefachim deep. Asor tefachim. How you poiskin masor tefachim? Pchusim masor tefachim. They were 9 tefachim or 8 tefachim deep. Benafal l'socher shor chamor v'meis potter. Okay, you don't pay koifer, but chayiv is anezek in huzak bo chayiv. If it didn't die, just got damaged, you're chayiv for the damage that it causes. Amarav. And there's a famous machlokas. Bor shechayiv alav toira. Is it lehevlo, v'lo lechavoto? Rav understands a bor that it's the bad air in the bor. It's not the fact that a person landed at the bottom of the bor. And that maybe gives us an answer to why we think, oh, it's 40 inches deep. The person's going to fall and it's not going to kill himself by landing on the ground. So basically, Rav learns it's lehevlo. Hevlo means bad air. So an animal that's trapped in a bor and it doesn't have good ventilation, that's why it kills it. Not that it was damaged by landing on the ground there. And you don't pay for that. Al maksavar, chavata karka oilamud miskile. The ground caused that damage. You didn't cause the damage. That's called karka oilam. Shmuel Amar. Well, bad air. Bad air. There's bad oxygen, no ventilation. Shmuel Amar lehevlo v'koshkin l'chavto. Shmuel says, yes, you're chayiv for the hevel, but you're also chayiv for the chavoto. V'im toimar. L'chavoto amra toira, v'lo lehevlo. So maybe the Torah was referring only to damage created by the trauma of landing on the ground and not for the hevel. So haTorah he'ida alabor v'afilu moles fugim shel tzemer. If the bor was filled with cotton balls on the bottom of the bor, so you'd be chayiv for it. So it has nothing to do with landing on a hard ground. It has to do with the hevel. Comes out, my binayu. What's the difference between Rav and Shmuel? In every bor, you're going to have chavata and you're going to have hevel. Iki binayu. De'ovad goiva b'shus harabim. So a person, let's say, we see the freeway workers and they put up a pile of dirt above ground. It's not dug below ground. And a cow walks up to the top and falls off and is killed. So that's going to be enough gemina between between Rav and Shmuel. Rav agoy v'lo machayev. It's not how high it was. I mean, it has nothing to do, and there's no hevel here because it's to open air. Lishmuel goy v'nami machayev. The fact that an animal falls from a height, we don't care that it fell from level ground into a bore, or it fell from a height onto the ground. That's one nafkamina between Rav and Shmuel. So my time of the Rav. So how come Rav doesn't make an achrayas for this type of damage? Amra krav v'nafa ad she'ipol derech nefila. When you walk up a mountain and fall up, that's not derech nefila. Derech nefila is you fall into a hole. That's how Rav learns. Lishmuel v'nafal kol du mashma. Shmuel says, what do you mean? Nafal is nafal. Well, I don't care whether it falls into a ground or fell from a height. Tanan. So we're going to ask a kasha on Rav. In Kain Lama Nemar Bor, Ma Bor Sheyesh Bo Kedei Lahamis Asar Tfachim. The Mishnah asked, why does the Torah mention Bor? So, because Bor establishes the minimum, it has to be at least 10 Tfachim deep. Av Kol Sheyesh Bo Kedei Lahamis. So any structure, whether it's square, whether it's narrow, is Asar Tfachim. So Bishma Shmuel, Af Kol is Lasui. There's Af Kol comes to include Mikoiva. That if you piled up dirt and the animal walked up the dirt and fell off that, that's the extra Af Kol. Ela Rav Af Kol Lasui Mai. According to Rav, what's the Af Kol coming to include? So Lasui Chritzin V'ni'itzin. Chritzin V'ni'itzin, which we said were the narrow DWP things, like those ditches, not ditches, whatever, trenches. Correct. So what do you mean? Chritzin v'ni'itzin badek torilu. The Mishnah itself mentioned chritzin v'ni'itzin. Why do you have to include those? Tani v'hadim afarish. Ein chanami. This is an example of a Mishnah that taught the halach. And then it explained the makor, that this is where we get the makor for chritzin and ni'itzin, according to Rav. Bani kula diktani. All of these things that were mentioned in the Mishnah, lamali. Why couldn't I learn one from the other? So the Gemara says, no, I need each one separately. Dit on a bor, if the Mishnah would have only mentioned bor, havamina bor asar tvachim, who the ispe have. Only a round circular thing that's 10 tvachim has hevel. Mishum dekotin v'kricha. It's narrow and circular. Aval siach, which is rectangular, the aruch, ema basar tvachim lespe hevel. Maybe that you need a greater depth to create hevel. So we have to be told no, that the 10 tvachim depth occurs for that as well. Itan a siach, besides board, mentions siach. Havamina siach has a asara, udi ispe hevla, mishum dekatin. It's also very narrow. Alva ma'ara de merabah. A ma'ara is square. So a square is not very narrow. Ema basar lespe havla. Again, we'd have a havamina that a ma'ara 10 tvachim deep does not have enough depth to create death-causing hevel. Okay, so we have to write that as well. Itar ma'ara, if they would have written ma'ara havamina, ma'ara ba'asara hava the ispe hevla. Yes, a cave has hevel with 10. Mishum, the metalala, it's covered. Aval chritzin, these narrow trenches, shalom metalala, that are not covered. Maybe I would have thought ema basar less buhav. Maybe there's no hevel. And the other way, itana chritzin avamina chritzin asara hu the ispe hevel. There is hevel by that. Yishum de less bu revicha mila eltfem etasoy. There is no wider on top than on the bottom. Aval ni'itzin, the revichim le'eltfem etatoy. A noyitz, I guess the way they dug that was wider on top than it was on the bottom. Maybe that brings in more air. Ema basar les buhavli, you need a deeper depth in order for. So kamash that even ni'itzin. So we have a chiddush for all of these. We learn in our mission. These bores were less than 10 tefachim. The nafal l'soich shor hachamor v'meis potter. So if the animal was killed, there's no liability. Im huzik bo chayiv. If it got damaged, there is chi. Now, nafal l'soich shor hachamor v'meis potter. Might addition the less pay chavata because it wasn't enough height, so it wasn't struck on the bottom of the floor, even though there's bad hevel. So it's a kashan rav. Low. Mishum de less pay hevel. If it's less than 10 tefachim, there's no hevel. Ihochi, that this kind of board doesn't have hevel, then why imhuzak bo chayiv? Why did it say if you get damage, you have to pay? Let's pay hevel. There's no what damage did you do? Amri ain't hevel lemisa, but yesh hevel l'nizikin. It's not enough hevel to kill the animal, but there's enough hevel to damage it. Ahu Torah, there was an ox, denafala rite dadloi, fell into like a lake, which was only an amma deep, which is 6 tefachim. It's not 10 tefachim. Now the owner was concerned that since it fell, he's going to lose the ox because maybe it got damaged. So he quickly wanted to shecht it to eat it. Shechte mari. So Tarfei Rav Nachman. There is a dinner in Yoredeya. An animal that falls, you can't eat it. If you shecht it, it's considered a treif. You got to wait 24 hours. That's not
See if
lach
it-
l'maisa
Oh,
today, because you're worried that maybe it injured it, fractured a rib.
how do you know?
So you don't. So you
What
don't.
do you
You
have to do?
have to wait 24 hours before you shecht it. If it fell, if it fell, an animal fell, you can't. You'll see the Gemara here. Rav Nachman treifed it up because we're concerned when an animal falls that it damaged its limbs, and then it's considered a treifa and it's aser bachir. On Rav Nachman, if Ishakal married the high Torah kabbat the kimch v'azal tana midrasha, if he would have taken a 50 cents worth of flour and come to the base medrash to learn, would have saved his shore. Because im shortam eis le'eis, if you wait 24 hours and it stays alive, ksheva. Lo afsedi l'Torah, the Bava Kama DAf. This shore was worth 1,000 kavs of flour. He would have lost his shore. Rav Nachman, yesh chavot masara. Well, risuk evorim, which means damaged limbs. Well, that certainly occurred through a traumatic fall. So Rav Nachman is, you tell me, Rav Nachman holds there's chavota for less than 10 tefachim, and yet Rav Nachman was choishish for risuk evorim. Yeah, the Gemara says yes. So eisvei rava Rav Nachman. Cash from our Mishnah, you pchusim asar tefachim was less than 10 tefachim. V'nafal l'socher shorchim or potter. My time, allow mishum de less chavota, because there is no chavota less. So why did he have to make the animal trade? Lo mishum de less beyavli. The Gemara will continue. Now, look at the halacha, the Rambam, and Shulchan Aruch. Behemoth shenaflo migoy v'asar tefachim, an animal that fell from a height of 10 tefachim. V'nechbetot she'eni yachol alakim, the animal cannot stand up after the fall. Asr lishchotasa ad shetisha me'es le'es. You have to wait 24 hours. V'im shachta b'soch zman zeh arei af im badkua v'lo matzu bo siman treifa rei treifa. Even if they did a postmortem and they found that we don't have the normal simon treifa, it's treif. Aval im shab subachai me'es le'es. If it stayed alive, me'es le'es lo achar v'lo matzu bo siman treifa, but you do have to do a postmortem and check. Oh, there's no simon treifa, it's kosher.
Oh, yeah.